Michigan won another big recruiting battle over the weekend with the addition of cornerback Jaden Sanders out of Texas. He's a top 20 player at his position. But in this video, we're going to talk about Michigan's chances to land a 5-star recruit at a key position in need for the Wolverines. I got Zach Libby here from the Wolverine. He's got the intel. But before we get going, guys, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We love talking Michigan recruiting. We're going to do it all year round, so make sure you guys jump on board, hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Zach Libby from the Wolverine, and a couple big names emerging as we head into the fall that Michigan fans need to keep an eye on. Let's start with wide receiver Andrew Marsh. He's another one out of Texas, and Michigan's been trending since his official visit in June. He's got an August 20 decision. How you feeling on this one?
Yeah, honestly, I feel great. As you mentioned, heavy lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. 3 visits this summer alone, 5 times total. Outside of that official visit, he went back for the barbecue at the Big House late last month. But, the staff, including wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy, has a really, really close relationship with Andrew Marsh and his family. And, over these past couple of years. And I mean, for a kid from Texas to make the effort to come up north that many times, in a year's span says a lot. But what also stands out is what he's talked about Michigan, the recent history of the winning, development, the opportunity to play at the next level, and just all the connections that he's built. Michigan made his top 5. Recently, but on August 20th, I have the prediction in for Michigan to land Andrew Marsh, the number 11 overall wide receiver in the country, and I feel good on that right now.
Awesome, and we're under 10 days on that one as we tape this on August 11. Another thing's coming clear with Michigan recruiting. They're looking for a playmaking wide receiver. That's why they're in on Jerome Miles. He decommitted from Ole Miss in June. His recruitment's been heating up. Georgia heavily involved here. Now, he's from Utah, so this is interesting. Big body, 6'3". Where does Michigan stand in this one?
Yeah, so he just is coming off his barbecue at the Big House visit, which is, 2 weeks ago. Michigan offered during the spring evaluation period. So getting him on that visit was big. It was an unofficial visit. So the plan is entering the fall that, a return visit happens and Jerome Miles ends up in Ann Arbor, potentially in game. But overall, I mean, Ron Bellamy, wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell, they got really close with Jerome Miles on the barbecue. Miles was able to get a feel of Ann Arbor. It was certainly enough to make Jerome Miles' top 10 earlier this month. But what's interesting about that top 10 is that 7 new players, right? Like the 7 most recent offers that Jerome Miles has collected also made that top 10. And considering that he's now, doesn't have a timeline, it'd be interesting to see how far this takes, how far this recruitment goes, and how many more visits Miles makes this fall. But ultimately, I think it would be interesting to see where the cards fall. But I think more confidence in where Michigan stands really depends on that official visit and if that actually happens, and then where things kind of transpire later in the fall.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's not going to make a decision before his senior year. So I do think this goes into the fall. And I do think, we talk a lot about these recruitments finishing. I kind of feel like Jerome Miles is just starting.
Yeah, it's when you decommit in June and then that dead period happens, and right, so you have all these new schools in the mix too. So there's a lot of more learning to do for Jerome Miles and, all these schools coming in. So again, I think Michigan is certainly in it, but again, that official visit really is the indicator of where they stand truly.
All right. Linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. We've been talking about him a lot when it comes to Michigan recruiting. Now, on the RPM, the recruiting prediction machine, Notre Dame is the team that's trending, but he has no decision date set either. Can Michigan still come back and win this one?
I mean, I think I like where Michigan stands, considering the fact that, he's been there twice, including for an official visit on that big Victors weekend in June. He's gotten a really good feel of how he could fit in the defense under defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. He has a close relationship with linebackers coach Brian Jean-Mary, and again, more than one experience of Ann Arbor. So he's getting comfortable with it. Obviously, as you mentioned, Notre Dame, with the connection with his older brother, but, Michigan's 4th on the RPM, but I wouldn't chalk it up as a done deal here, right? Like, as you mentioned, like timeline, it could happen on December 4th, right, on National Signing Day. So there's time. I think the big thing for Michigan is continue to stay the course, do what they had before, and just allowing him to stay comfortable with the staff and the peer recruiting. He has a teammate in Caden Strayhorn, interior offensive lineman, IMG Academy, is currently committed to Michigan, so there's a connection there. I would expect Michigan to try to bring him in for a game unofficially, which is something he has yet to do. That big house atmosphere. There's certainly a lot of games on the schedule that can provide that vibe and that, I guess, that riveting experience that, players kind of talk about often when they visit. So overall, I think that's sort of like the next step, and just figuring out when that decision does come. But overall, I would like to have Michigan bring him in for a game.
All right, now we're going to track this 5-star offensive lineman, Andrew Babalola, because there's only a couple available 5-star offensive linemen. We know Josh Petty is making his decision tomorrow, August 12th. David Sanders is going to be Saturday, August 17th. Offensive lineman Andrew Babalola, we don't know, but the experts are saying that even though there's no decision date set, it could come at any moment before his senior year. We know Auburn, Michigan, Stanford, those are kind of the main teams in Oklahoma as well. Andrew Babalola, is this Michigan's to lose? How do you feel about him?
I'm not in a spot to say that Michigan leads or to say that they're behind by a certain amount.
Yeah, from it's a tough recruitment.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think we do know, though, that Michigan picked up a lot of momentum this summer by bringing him in for an official visit in June. And when you look at what Michigan can provide, a 5-star offensive tackle and a kid who really values education, I mean, it's a big reason why the Wolverines are in it. I mean, definitely. Grant Newsome, offensive line coach, head coach Sherrone Moore, both have backgrounds as coaches and players with the offensive line position. I mean, joining a 2-time Joe Moore Award-winning unit stands out. The strength and conditioning program, Michigan being a top 5 public university in the country. An interesting fact is, Andrew Babalola was born 45 minutes north of Ann Arbor in Metro Detroit. So it's an area that his family is familiar with. This is a must land regardless of where they at right now. There's no projected offensive tackle committed to Michigan this cycle. So we know that we know that Michigan has a little bit under a month to just keep making moves and just, trying to seal the deal as a decision, as the Wolverine has learned, that it will come by September 6th. But again, I'm not in a position to put a prediction one way or another.
Okay. Now, Michigan currently sits at number 14. Obviously, Andrew Babalola would really help landing a 5-star offensive tackle. But what about for Michigan fans to keep an eye on heading into the fall? Any flip targets out there?
Yeah, there's certain positions that Michigan still has a need for, including nose tackle, a Kenneth Grant type, that one technique. They just lost out on DJ Sanders, top 100 player out of Belleville, to Texas A&M. So they're looking at some guys, certain names, Jason Dowell, Missouri defensive line commit. He's 6'4", 285 pounds. Michigan only has one wide receiver committed. They lost out on Philip Wright to LSU. So two potentially if Michigan lands Andrew Marsh. But, certain flip targets I'm looking at, Preston Bowman, a Kentucky commit out of Central Ohio, Jamari Bryce, a Georgia native who's committed to Georgia Tech. But, they're looking at on the defensive going back to the defensive side of the ball. Michigan has a true cornerback locked in, and Jane Sanders on 300 out of Kilgore, Texas. They have a safety and a projected nickel committed. So looking for that open spot at corner. I mean, there's certain guys committed to Texas A&M right now. Adonis Curry out of California, the number 7 overall cornerback in the under 3 industry ranking. You're looking at another guy like Jamar Beal Goings out of the Phoenix Valley, who's in the on 300 and the number 1 overall 2025 prospect in Arizona. Guys like Curry and Beal Goings and Dowell, they haven't visited Michigan yet. So it's just, keeping an eye on them. Guys like Preston Bowen and Jamari Bryce have visited at least once. So it'll be interesting to see. As you mentioned, they have 16 commits right now. We'll see how many they end up with in a few months.
Yeah. All right. Michigan fans, let us know how you guys feeling heading into the fall about Wolverine recruiting. Comment section below. Is Andrew Babalola next? Let us know. Zach Libby from the Wolverine. Enjoyed talking some Michigan recruiting with you.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.